and we can't screw up. The nice thing about us not making too much money on this podcast is...
Sponsors won't drop you if you say a curse word.
No sponsors to lose. All right, hit it, Ian. Here we go.
3, 2... My name is Ian Wehrle from the Jackie Mason musical. You're experiencing the Tom Kelly Show. The Tom Kelly Show is the podcast where one comedian owns the midlife crisis. New episodes on Mondays and Wednesdays. He is across the board on social media as @TomKellyShow. But right now, let's start the show. I love the Eiley Bite special. I love the Eiley, love the Eiley, love the Eiley Bite special.
Here we go. Trigger warning, spoiler alert. Someone get a 23andMe test. You are experiencing the first 3-person live edition of the Tom Kelly Show. Actually, it's 4 people. My nephew Nico is working a camera. And then I'm here with my friend who has been on the show at least twice by Zoom. My friend Sheba Mason. She's been here. And I'm going to monologue for a second if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I'm with her friend Ian Wehrle, who plays Jackie Mason in, what is it, Jackie Mason the Musical?
The Jackie Mason Musical. The website is The Jackie Mason Musical.
And you're going to get right into that microphone,
The
okay?
Jackie Mason Musical.
The Jackie Mason Musical, and it's thejackymasonmusical.com, right? Yes. Great. So the fun thing about Sheba is I have known her for, God, how long are you doing stand-up now? 15 years.
About that.
And Sheba years ago would do these brilliant stand-up comedy acts or whatever they were when we were all starting out together. And then she would always close with a bit about... And the punchline was Jackie Mason was your dad and not returning your calls.
Kinda, yeah.
I mean, kind of. That was the gist of it.
Yeah.
And without getting, the listeners know this, I grew up, and we won't talk about this, but I grew up with a friend who had a famous dad, and he used to hate talking about his famous dad. So I never wanted to talk to you about your famous dad. And then I realized there's a musical about him that your mom wrote, and how complicated your relationship was with your famous dad. And then you messaged me about wanting to promote the musical, which is in the New York Comedy Festival. And let's promote this quick. It's at Caroline's, this coming Sunday, which will have passed by the time it aired. But every Sunday in November, right?
The 20th. The last one is the 20th.
So Sunday, November 20th, buy a ticket if you're in the New York area. Or better yet, buy a ticket. And if you can't show up, at least she sold a damn ticket, all right? Help out with that. And the story on you and your pop is amazing. So you didn't really know him, even though you knew him.
Right. So that's a very good point.
And that's the gist of the musical, or no?
Well, the musical really is about his 10-year whirlwind romance with I had one sip so far. His 10-year whirlwind is hard to say.
Whirlwind White Claw.
With my mother. It was a 10-year romance.
Right.
And they met at Wolfie's Delicatessen in South Florida, Miami Beach. So the whole play takes place circa 1977 through 1985.
Right.
Up until when I was born. And so, it's about like their 10-year, crazy romance.
Okay, and Ian plays your dad.
He plays my dad and I play my mother. So psychologists have a field day because I get pregnant with myself.
Wait, and at some point you F your father in the play. I mean, at least it's implied. So you play your mom who F's your dad, and then you come out.
It's basically a Greek tragedy.
Well, there's so much I want to ask you. So let's go slow, because I don't want to make this just a Tom and Sheba podcast. Ian, you're playing Jackie Mason.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you grow? You're young. And
Sure.
we were just saying this. Nico, who is 22 and working the camera, do you know who Jackie Mason is? No idea. Wait, yell it out loud, Nico.
No idea.
No idea. Okay. Nico's not allowed to be on camera, but I know who Jackie Mason is.
Why, is he running from the law?
Yeah, exactly. Sheba, just pause. Yes, exactly. He's been offered to be a co-host on this a million times, and he has said no. That said, back to you. Who is Jackie Mason? Let me start with Ian, who plays him. Who is Jackie Mason to people, and then who is Jackie Mason to you as an actor?
Well, listen, I'm sure I would get a lot of flack for this, but I would say that Jackie Mason is probably the premier Jewish comedian that established what established for our generation at least and the generation before us, what Jewish comedy was and could be. I think he paved the road for all of the Seinfelds and the Larry Davids and the even what's the one the movie guy, the really funny the Woody Allen. I mean, there's just within a certain spectrum. He was probably 10 years older or so of Woody Allen, and allowed for that type of shtick to stick, to become part of what New York was. He was the embodiment of New York Jewish comedy, solo. This is what I do, stand up.
Now, that's a great question. Was Jackie Mason famous outside of Jewish New York? I'm going to argue he was, because I'm Irish and Italian, and we knew who Jackie Mason was. He was famous and infamous, though, too, right? Because it was at least assumed he gave Ed Sullivan the finger.
That's true. It was assumed, and we addressed that in the play. There's a cute song where he felt really. That's the one song he wrote in the play where he felt very strongly about this topic. He felt it had to be addressed in the play, and so. We learned he really didn't give Ed Sullivan the finger, but it did set him back 20 years. His career was set back 20 years. He was like the original victim of cancel culture.
Okay, yeah. Because nobody liked him. And your dad sued over it, too, right?
He did, and he won.
Okay,
He won.
now let's go. So I'm all over the place. How many times, right? Am I, or I don't know, but there's so
you're
much I want to
great.
ask you.
Yeah.
Have you ever meet him? Your dad?
So I have met him a handful of times. The first time I met him when I was 8 years old. My mother and my grandmother helped raise me. I don't know if you know. I have like a joke in my act where I say my grandmother was like a father to me. She even had the beard.
Okay.
Some of that's true.
Okay, and if you're Italian or Jewish, that's pretty damn true.
She took good care of it, though.
Okay.
And I don't mean, but
she trimmed it. She kept it groomed. Good, good. Yeah, set it on number 2, Grandma. That's a good thing.
Exactly. You wouldn't know it to look at it.
So, I mean, so that's an easy one right there. Your dad and mom never got married.
Right, so they were together 10 years. I was a total bastard, born out of wedlock.
Okay, I wanted to say it like that, and I think you used to joke with it like that, but the word is cruel. I was going to do just a one-sentence intro. Sheba Mason is the bastard child of Jackie Mason and her mother. That hurts, right?
It used to,
It's a weird word.
There is definitely a negative connotation.
Right.
My father himself was always calling people, you Nazi bastard, his whole life. But, sure, bastard isn't like a beautiful word.
But now, did your dad know you were around?
Yeah, so he definitely, he knew. Okay. Oh, boy, did he know.
Okay.
So when she got pregnant, he was still really super friendly to her, which that's saying a lot, right?
Yeah.
He was very friendly. I mean, even when I was born, he was around for a little bit. He even went to Thanksgiving at my grandmother's house when I was a baby, which was like very much like a boyfriendy thing for him to do, which for him is out there, and he even used to like really play with me, and like come over to me. I don't remember that, of course. I was like 1.
Okay.
And then his career started to get big, and he had a very controlling manager, and she was in love with him her whole life. And she like really drove a wedge between us, to tell you the truth.
And this is going to sound crazy. Was Jackie Mason married to anybody?
Ultimately, they say he was married much later on, to this manager of his.
Okay.
But it's never really proven. It wasn't in any of like his affidavit stuff. They never lived together. So whether or not it was hearsay, no one was ever at the wedding. The rumors say that he wasn't even at the wedding. So who really knows for sure? Okay.
Now, I have not seen the play yet. Not because I don't want to see it, but because of the timing, we want to get the podcast out as quick as possible. But from what I have seen, did your dad pick up your mom in a deli?
Yeah, that's what he did. So my mother had just moved to Florida 3 days ago from, New Jersey.
What year?
1977.
Thank you, Ian.
And the year was 1977, and she was sitting in Wolfie's Delicatessen with her mother, and he's sitting with his friend Wooly.
Right.
And he sends the guy over to the table. He says, "You want to meet Jackie Mason?" Because he thought she was very pretty, sitting at a deli. They're not bar people. I know
But that's also a brilliant pickup line, and I can't wait to be this famous, to be just like your dad, and be. Except I'm at a point now. I'd be surprised if I could knock anybody up.
It still swims.
There might be a few fishies still in the stream. That said, but your dad would go to delis, and not bars, not clubs, not big concerts, but he would go to delis and then have his friend walk over to pretty girls and say, "Do you want to meet Jackie Mason?"
Yeah. Yeah, they're eating a pastrami sandwich.
And that at least worked once with your mom.
Oh, it worked. Yeah, but
You've heard wingman. This is chicken wingman.
so she didn't even know who he was. But her mother, who was a very, very dominating Jewish woman, you know the type,
Right.
Was like, of Jackie Mason, of course she wants to meet him. Certainly, they go over to his table, and my mother goes, "Who's Jackie Mason?" You know.
So your mom didn't know him at
she
the time.
didn't even really know.
Okay, that's something your mom has in common with Nico.
Yeah.
Okay, but now
Would you like to meet Ginger Ryder?
hold on. I feel like Nico could be your stepdad by the end of this. Now, but now
He looks like he has some stuff that still swims.
okay, no picking up my nephew. You just talked about my nephew's semen. That just got.
He looks really young and like very spry.
He is young and very spry. He's a college kid. Yes, that's exactly. But we don't talk about it. Jeez. Oh my God, I can't wait for you to have nieces and nephews that I could flirt with. You know what I love too, Nico? She's actually blushing flirting with you. Do you see her? Zoom in for a second, Nico. Sheba's actually turning red, and this is why we're paying Nico to be here for the close-up shot of Sheba turning red as she flirts with my 22-year-old nephew.
Now
So
we sponsor the White Claw Surge. Thank you, sir.
but actually, so there you go. So you are just like your father, though, right there, because you're 30-something, and you're.
I'm not really picking him up. I'm just saying the juxtaposition because you said you think yours
Well,
is
he's a real kid with feelings, okay. But like now, but that's such
Who
a
may
weird.
or may not be an ex-con.
My nephew might be in. Okay, stop on. We're going to stop on my nephew's prison record, which does not exist, by the way. So, but your dad would go to basically would go to delis and pick up chicks. How many girlfriends did he have? Like, do you have any other siblings that are in the same boat as you are?
So good question. I have actually no other proven siblings at all. I've never heard of another sibling.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm the only child from both parents.
What's that quote he used to give?
What is it?
So one of them got me. Anyway, he was a well-known.
Okay, why don't you give me the quote? You're the professional actor, Ian.
Sure. He was a well-known. Listen, it's not a bad thing necessarily. Depends on your disposition. He was a well-known philanderer, right? He had a lot of girls. He was just with girls.
Yeah.
That was his shtick. He had two vices, right? You say he had pastrami and women. Those were his two vices.
And I love pastrami.
Well, that's
Okay, yeah.
hard to argue against. But when he was asked at one point by some kind of television interviewer or a paper interviewer, they said, well, what about this girl? You had this child, and his quote in response to that was, "Well, one of them got me. One of the women got him, to have the baby. He was trying to not have a baby for a very long time."
Okay, so that's
you know
gotta
the
be powerful.
method with which you don't have one.
I mean, no. And did Jackie Mason encourage your mom to not have you?
Oh, good question.
Wow.
I haven't heard that.
I mean, I don't know. And that's a really,
That's
though, and by the way,
interesting,
I feel like a piece of shit locking eyes with you and asking you that question. But it is part of a musical.
Yeah.
He did have his friend actually say, like, would you consider an abortion? Yeah.
Okay. But there has
And
to
then
Was this before Roe or after?
that's a
be...
good question.
73, so yeah, after. Way
It was after.
Yeah.
So she could have, but there was no way she would consider it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the last dicky question I ask. But this
You're
is
so sweet.
No, but your mom gets, pregnant. She's bringing this beautiful baby, which will grow up to be a stand-up comedian, into this world. And somewhere along the line, you're born, and he fizzles out.
So she actually, it's funny that you bring that up because that's the darker side of this whole pregnancy. When she was asked to maybe have an abortion and she was like, absolutely not, there was a few minutes there where she was a little afraid for her life, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she continues on with the baby. He gets on board, sort of, has the baby, is friendly to me until I was like about 1 or 2. Then his show opened up on Broadway. The World According to Me. And now remember, this is a man whose career had been really set back.
Because now, and Ian, you could probably give me the business end of his career. He was big Borscht Belt, Catskills, traveling the country, that sort of thing. Gets in trouble with Ed Sullivan, and nobody really wants to book him again, and he's back to stand-up and low-end stuff. Mm-hmm. And then back to what Sheba's saying, he becomes a big deal again with a Broadway show.
Right. And like it was a really big thing. Like Mel Brooks helped him take out an ad. Like everybody like invested in this guy that was like so like the underdog, downtrodden. Carl Reiner was was there.
And I think that's where my memories of your dad start coming into play. Growing up in New York, I remember the Channel 11 commercials.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, I forget, but I remember his pitter patter. And it was, and like, it's funny, I'm showing clips of Ian performing as Jackie Mason to my nephew, and my nephew's like, do people really talk like that? And right, Nico? Yes, right. Hang on, Nico. You pretty much said that, right? Yep.
Yeah. So
Okay. No, and so I'm not being a jerk. And I'm like, if you grew up in Brooklyn and you were Italian or Irish and knew a Jewish person, there was somebody's Jewish grandpa kind of talked like that. And so I think he was, at least for me, a New York icon. And I know he would get into trouble a little bit because he was kind of like a shock jock in his own way, right?
He was kind of like the bad boy of the Borscht Belt. You know,
he was 3 feet tall. I like describe what did he look like, Ian? What did Jackie Mason look like? So I'm not a jerk.
Sure. If you imagine a carrot field and you pull a carrot about halfway out of the ground and then just like beat it around a little bit, that was Jackie Mason.
Okay, and he was hooking up with women in delicatessens all throughout Miami.
yeah.
Okay, now. We were somewhere, but people didn't know. But like, it's weird because he was like a big deal he was a big deal. Then he stopped being a big deal, and then as he's becoming a big deal again, he just doesn't want to have a baby floating around. Is there?
Yeah, that's pretty. You got that kind of right. Yeah.
Okay, and now how's your mom handling that? She goes from now having a child out of wedlock with a famous guy. And now he's becoming more famous while she's at home with a kid.
Right. So in the beginning, his brother said, whatever money you want, like he'll send you some money, right? And then he didn't. And then his manager got involved and like really, back then you would call someone like on a hotel phone.
Right.
And you would be able to like intersect the phone. Like there were all sorts of weird things going on where he would like almost say something and then the phone would be cut off. You know? Like that happened a lot.
So he had this other woman, this manager. It was almost like a Stockholm sort of syndrome thing, do you think? Or was he just using her? Was she the villain, or was he the villain using her as the villain?
A little insight into that maybe is, didn't she come from money or something? Why was he so stuck with her? She had some kind of, like a...
her parents had money.
Yeah.
And they would help. They were like...
producers of the show.
They were sort of like his first
So she was
managers.
part of his career comeback.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So it wasn't just... She wasn't just a secretary doing the schedule.
Right.
She really was...
And they invested in like a movie of his that really didn't take off.
Which one? What was that?
I don't know. It was like it was so unknown.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like when it bombed, you wouldn't even know what it is.
Okay, worse than Caddyshack 2.
Way worse.
Okay. Yeah.
I used to have a joke, by the way, like he avoids me. Why does he avoid me? He's the one who was in Caddyshack 2.
Yeah, and what was it's driving me nuts because I would get mad at you sometimes when you and we'll get to the play because you would have a killer set. And then you would close with Jackie Mason is my birth father. What was that joke first?
So it used to be sometimes I wish a better looking comedian was my father, like Woody Allen or Rosie O'Donnell. Then I've now changed it. I've changed it to update it. Sometimes I wish a better looking celebrity was my father, like Woody Allen or R. Kelly. Because think about it, either one of them would have played with me as a child.
Wow. Wow, I'm actually checking my nephew to see if he was laughing at that. Wow.
You're like such a nice guy. Like you're too nice for these.
No, I am, but I'm not. Well, here's the not nice question now. Do you feel like I'm from a family that stayed together and you get into last names and birthrights? Were you, like when your dad was alive and avoiding you, and we haven't gone through any of that history yet, were you milking the last name with that?
Well, it's a strange thing. Like, so from the time I was little, I was taught, like, by my grandmother, who was very dominating, like, wear the name, like it's a cologne, like, you're you, and then you wear this extra thing, and it's like going to be really cool, And basically, it got me some gigs,
right?
like synagogue gigs where I go, you really wanted Jackie Mason, but you couldn't afford him, so you got me.
No, because I remember you, you were big in the Joe Franklin Comedy Club. Which is stupid.
That was quite an era.
But it sounds stupid. It was the end of Joe Franklin was a name in New York.
Yeah.
And you have a last name that is arguably comedy royalty in New York.
You were there for that era, weren't you?
I was there for the era, but I was never in at Joe Franklin's. I was always in at Hamburger Harry's or Ha. which I'm dropping the name. I'm dropping the names of comedy clubs that no longer exist. But the comedy clubs were Hamburger Harry's and Ha. Those were comedy club names. All right.
Speaking of names, though, tell the story about your name, about your first name. That's a funny one.
Sheba?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which, by the way, I still can't spell. It's Sheba.
Yeah.
I always add 2 E's. I don't know why.
A lot of people do, but it's really it's the Queen of Sheba, you know.
Okay.
But so my mother wanted, you know, Jews have to name their kids with like the first letter of a name of someone who died from their family. That's what we do. So like, let's say your grandfather died and you loved him, and he started with an M. You would name your kid like, you know,
Mike or
something with
Mo or something like that. All right.
So in this case, she had to name her kid something with an S. So she said Shayna, and he goes, no, it's too Jewish. Let's do something more exotic.
That's his whole shtick. No, it's too Jewish.
Too Jewish.
Well, he's so Jewish.
But Sheba is a beautiful and exotic name. So
it is it's better, and it's more ambiguous.
Than Shayna?
Yeah, like Sheba, sometimes people think I'm Indian, you know, on paper.
I'll give you that. Now, your dad, so we know your dad acknowledged who you were. You say somewhere, and I heard you say in an interview, he paid child support the whole way through.
Yes.
Not voluntarily.
Not voluntarily, but the checks went through.
Yeah, you had to be sued for paternity.
Okay, and you sued him
for a blood test. My mother did.
Okay.
And she hated every minute of it because she was so in love with him, so she hated even doing that. But he was being such like a, you know.
And this is where the musical, like for my friends who are listening to this thinking, you're really being nosy, Tom, stop. We're now in the subject of where your mother wrote a musical about this part of her life.
So, right. And then there's even a scene in the play where he's in court and the song is called I Never Met This Yenta. And it starts out where like he's denying even knowing her. And then the next verse he's like, right, all right, well, I might have met her for coffee, maybe once or maybe twice. And then like by the next verse, he has to confess. He goes, all right, I guess the baby's mine. You know, he's holding his right hand.
That really happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
That your dad went to court and said, I never met your mom.
I mean, back then, without Instagram and Facebook, it was really easy to deny things.
No, I'm not arguing that, but now this stuff all adds up. Now, this has to be your mom's still in love.
Yeah.
And that
really,
affects her.
Yeah.
And how does that affect you?
Well, she kept it pretty much hidden, you know, when I was 1 and 2, I think.
Right.
Emotionally. She suppressed it, you're saying?
Yeah, she suppressed it from me. I mean, I wasn't like really aware of it.
Like I met your mom once or twice. She struck me as being pretty upbeat. Were you raised by an upbeat mother?
I was raised by an upbeat mother.
Okay.
And she actually taught me to harbor no resentment toward him, which is unusual. She has remarried and she has a really nice husband.
How old was she when she remarried?
I was 15.
Okay, so old enough that he's sort of a part of your life, but not like he didn't raise you.
Yeah, and they dated for like so long. Like they dated for a very long time.
He played Jackie Mason in several iterations.
He
of
never
this
played
back
Jackie
then.
Mason.
Oh, he didn't?
No,
Well, he was in the show.
Okay, that would be hilarious, and
he
that
never
would
played
be
Jackie Mason.
That would be the thing that would F you up.
She did meet him in a very early incarnation of this play, though. He was Wooly, which is Jackie's friend.
Okay, so the play's been in and out for 10 years. 12 years.
Even more than that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So throughout the years, your mom is kind of writing this. I want to so your mom now is hung up on I got knocked up by Jackie Mason.
At this point.
Okay. To the point where at some year within the last 15 years, she wrote the play.
Right.
Okay.
So she wrote a very early incarnation after they were only dating 3 years. Now let's remember, which you probably don't know, my mother was always an artist also. She always wrote music.
Okay, I didn't know that about her.
Yeah, and she always wrote music, and she was a belly dancer on the side. She was a teacher in high school. She taught English. She taught Spanish. And so she was also like, you know, she had written music from the time she was like 12, and she was always like, so, you know, she was a thinker and an artist type, you know.
Okay.
And so when she was having these dalliances with Jackie Mason after only 3 seasons, as she called it, she had to pen something. So she penned a very early iteration of this. It wasn't really quite a play. It was more like musings, prose, if you will.
She's like the Jewish Sarah Bareilles.
Okay. You've met Sheba's mom?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. How do you describe Sheba's mom? as a person, not as a comedian.
Remember,
no.
she's going to hear this.
I know. It's complimentary. I just want to think of something funny. No, she's insane in the most wonderful way. It's one of those artist types, the creative. She's like, a female Van Gogh in a way. Like creatively just everywhere all the time, coming up with ideas and coming up with thoughts and inspired. She's inspired and funny and down to earth and approachable, and everything that you see. Well, one half of what you see in Sheba definitely, is filtered from Ginger into her in terms of the personality flagrances. And when you see them together, you're just like, what? It's too intense. It's too much. It's like double suns. It's like double suns.
I'll give you the intense is the word I was looking for. Thank you. That was no, but now I'm skipping around the story here a bit, but I know. I heard on another podcast, which I never knew this, and it kind of made me cry. Cry is a strong word, but I felt something. Like, and again, I'm transposing memories of other friends onto you. So I don't know if your experience was really like this, but you kind of went for years. You met your dad once again when you were 8, and then there was another gap.
Long gap. I was 15, and then I was like 19, and then.
And then what was
30.
15 and 19? And these are just once. It wasn't like for a year. It wasn't like you became a regular thing. You met him quick at 14. What was that story?
So, well, the best, most interesting one I think is the one when I was 8, the first time I saw his show. Because when I was 14, it was like the second time I saw his show, and it was really not much.
Because your mom was like dragging you in and into shows where he was performing and screaming, "Look, this is your baby!" Like, was she doing that?
No.
Okay,
No.
but she was
always very ladylike about it.
But she was trying to get him to see you.
No, she kind of like didn't even try to do that because, what are you going to do? You can't fight City Hall. So
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like, they waited all the way until I was 8. And so my grandmother was like, it's really time for her. She's 8. She's like, person already. Why don't I take her to go see Jackie Mason's show? He's at the Broward Center for the Performing Arts, which was seats like 2,000 people. I remember thinking, whoa, that's my father. Like, I remember that feeling.
Okay.
Not fully understanding all his jokes, but, sort of. And so then we went backstage, which wasn't easy. And, when we finally got there, he was very tender, and he like stared at me, and he goes, she looks just like her mother in such like a tender, romantic way. And I remember even understanding the romance of that, like he missed my mother, It was very sweet and tender. And then he goes, I can't talk too much because Jill's parents are standing right. It was always her parents, always the manager's parents, right there, or her, right there, always stifling him. But I will tell you that the next month, the child support check came early. But they were hoping that seeing this cute little 8-year-old would like make, very gentle, very like not pushing him, not being like, where are you? She was never like that. How come you haven't seen? It was never like at all with animus. It was always just gentle, lightly nudging, like not even nudging, just here's your daughter that you don't know. And look at her. She's so cute. I mean, who's not cute when they're 8,
And but that didn't make him say, I want to be a part of her life on a regular basis.
No.
Okay. And then you met a couple of other times, and I think there was one other time where you met him as a grown-up after doing stand-up, right?
Yeah, and I had a joke that was published in the New York Post, and it said, better-looking comedian. I wish it were better-looking comedian. It was my father, like Woody Allen or Rosie O'Donnell. Okay. And when I overheard him, he goes, "This is what you say about me. I look like a fat yenta, like Rosie O'Donnell."
So there's years of him not talking.
Yeah.
You're doing stand-up. The joke gets published.
Yeah.
Who finds whom?
I found him at the Applejack Diner because I happen to live nearby.
Again, him and the diners.
Yeah, he loves the diners.
Okay.
He's not a bar guy.
Yeah.
Never drank, never smoked,
Okay. And you found him at Applejack Diner because you knew he hung out there, or was it a random run-in?
It was a kind of a random run-in because I lived right nearby and I was always on my way home.
They have a booth named after him.
Yeah, they do have a booth.
Okay, so
I wasn't going out of my way looking for him.
Because, I'm going to argue, because you kind of just made a joke there, Ian. I don't think it's stalking if it's your dad.
Yeah, but I genuinely was on my way home.
Yeah.
But when I was 19 and I was bartending in the Broadway theaters, I was working at Spamalot, and his Broadway show was right across the street, and I happened to come out and see him getting into his limo, and he didn't recognize me, and I said, "You don't recognize me?" And he was like, "No, but you're a very pretty girl." Like, he was like interested in taking me out. And I said, "Well, I'm your daughter." He goes, "Oh, yes." That's right.
And then,
no wonder I think you're so pretty.
And then he only passed away this year.
Yeah, about a year ago.
About a year ago now. So you've been doing stand-up for 15 years.
Yeah.
And he never reached out to you. He never came to a show.
No, and I used to hear about other people that he would mentor, and that would really bother me a little.
So, and I think one other thing that kind of has me hot for being into things like this sign up here, I'll pull it down for a second. No, but like I have a grandpa who had the same name as me. He died when I was 4, and it's not the same thing. But I've always tried to know a little bit about this guy who has the same name as me, and he passed away. So like with you though, he's alive. He's in the same city. He's a few blocks away. He's eating at every diner known to man. I guess you heard about him mentoring other people. Did you ever reach out to those people?
Well, those were people I knew. Like, you remember Danny LaBelle?
He mentored Danny LaBelle?
Yeah.
Oh, he could have done a better.
He's sitting there at diner.
Yeah. Well, I guess, but Danny liked
mentor
diners
is a
more
strong word. Maybe we'll just go with hung out.
No, but hung out. No, but there you go. And now,
And he hung out with Kareth Foster, if you remember her.
Okay, those are 2 people I like, and I was starting on a Danny joke that wasn't even there.
Why? He would rib us if he was.
Oh, he would,
Let's
and
let him
I got
have
a
it.
funny. I have a funny Danny LaBelle story where he got me banned because, or it turned into a big fight. I was running a monthly comedy show, and this woman, Sue Funk, who I was doing the show with,
I remember
turned it.
Sue Funk.
Sue Funk's a great person. What a great name. I miss. See, that's what I miss about the early days of comedy. When you can say the name Sue Funk like it's going to be a big name. Sue Funk. Everybody knows Sue Funk. And
Asian?
No, she very, very white in Long Island. I don't even know if she had an ethnicity, but she was very white in Long Island, and she. Yeah, I don't know if she was Jewish or not, but she was definitely white, Long Island. And Sue Funk was running a fundraiser for a guy now who was in Thomas Middleditch, whatever he was in. He was in Silicon Valley, or Silicon, the TV show, right? Do you even know what I'm talking about? He was the second lead with TJ Miller in a TV show. Yeah. He's in all these commercials, blah, blah, blah. The guy was apparently in a horrible car accident at some point, and Sue Funk turns the show into a Thomas Middleditch fundraiser. And Danny LaBelle, on my say-so, did a spot that night when I wasn't there, and Danny LaBelle may or may not have done at least one joke saying Thomas Middleditch is going to die. And the guy is alive, he is healthy, and blah, blah, blah. But I started getting hate mail of, your friend said Thomas Middleditch is going to die. And I'm like, I barely, I'm like, I know him, but... Anyway, and I don't think I ever saw Sue Funk or Danny LaBelle ever again. I was going somewhere with this.
Jackie was mentoring him.
But yeah. Jackie was mentoring him. Kareth, did you ever try to get a piece of your father through them?
Like Danny LaBelle was like, he told me that he heard you were really pretty or something, but it was like...
Again with those checking you out.
Yeah, but it felt good. I mean, at least... I mean, I don't know. He was very, into looks, even though he's not the most gorgeous creature on the planet, but he was, very into, the way women look, so, I kind of like that, but it's like... I was... That... When I heard that was a little, wow, you're hanging out late at night with these people.
Yeah.
And I'm right there. You're that really bothered me.
Okay.
I have to tell you that bothered me.
Now, yeah, and that bothers me too. And then we're going to get into the musical in a minute.
It's one thing if you're just this distant creature, but if you're actually taking the time to help other comics with their acts or just hang out and bullshit, that hurt.
Yeah.
Schmuck move.
Well, and now I'm going to go with, even just from the New York City tabloids, taking Ian's word, not mine, your dad might have been a bit of a schmuck or jerk, whatever. How does the quest to identify with a guy who might be not worthy of you affect you as a comic and a person?
Wow, what a great question.
Yeah.
God, this is better than therapy.
I hope so.
His audience worships him. There are people who are, they love him unconditionally no matter what. And I am not here. Yeah. Go ahead.
To sidebar that, don't lose this thought because I want you to go exactly where you're going. But tell them the story about we were on the radio the other day.
Yeah, and this woman called up and she said, I love Jackie Mason and he was so great to his fans because we would wait and wait and wait to see him after the show and he would greet us and he would say, thank you so much for waiting and thank you. He really adored his fans and he gave, you hear a lot of stories about celebrities that are not nice to their fans and he was really so grateful for all his fans. And so, yeah. And so I'm not here to like admonish him.
No, but Ian, why don't you tell the story? Because
There's an important part of that,
No.
which is that so the radio host that was on with us asks the woman that called up the phone, which was explaining the story about how she loved Jackie Mason, and he asks her, he says, okay, well, now that you know that Jackie Mason left his daughter and never spoke to her and was kind of a real jackass about it, does that affect you in any way as a big fan? And she goes, no, I really just like his comedy. You know, so you have to understand that side of it too, is that his stardom and his source of energy as an energy monster that he was, a comic energy monster, wasn't affected in any capacity. So he was able to exist in this bubble of celebrity that stimulated him and kept him going until 93. And still be able to avoid her entirely, but continue with
So, like, that woman is almost like a microcosm of everybody that's so unaffected by what he did to his kid, or the lack of what he did.
Simple.
And I could have been more public about it. I could have been like really, really admonishing him throughout my life. I could have had articles. You know, I've been interviewed by the New York Post and stuff. Like, and I always downplay it. I always downplay, like, just. Now I'm pissed because I remember that he mentored Danny LaBelle.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I had really suppressed that memory.
Is Danny LaBelle still in the game?
It's not even about Danny LaBelle. It's just he's not really. But it's not. He has 2 kids now. But it's not even about. It's not even about the fact that it's Danny LaBelle. It's just the fact that it's like another guy that I was working with in these shit rooms. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
like
Danny LaBelle was in this rooms we were in. Yeah. And Danny LaBelle, he was funny.
Yeah. So now I'm riled up because I forgot. I suppressed that memory.
I mean, and the worst part is, I heard Jackie Mason set up a scholarship fund for Danny LaBelle's kids.
Oh, well, I will tell you what he did do.
No.
You know what he did do?
Oh, no.
You know the New Year's Eve ball drop?
Yeah.
One year he sponsored the ball drop. Yeah. When he's a kid who has like almost nothing.
Wait,
You know that story.
Vaguely.
Yeah, he sponsored the ball drop.
Did you grow up, what now?
But I could have been a lot more vocal and a lot more hateful.
Arguably, he did sponsor one ball drop with your mom. There you go. No, Nico gave me nothing on that. Okay, Nico's like, that is hacky, that is easy. She's very. So actually, But actually, this is one that I've never wanted to ask, but you just hit it. 1980s, your dad had money. He did at that point. Did Sheba and her mom have money?
Well, he paid child support. Did he pay as much as what's comparable to what he makes? Absolutely not.
Okay.
I mean, we lived, like
there was no extra
people.
money. There was no extra birthday gifts. It was what the government told them to do.
Right. There
Okay.
was no gifts, no calls, nothing.
All right. We're past. Let's get past the personal details. Last personal detail. Sheba Mason is a comedian. Is that because her father was a comedian?
Good question. You would think that it would be, but really, like I said, my mother was theatrical. I was in plays my whole life. She has 2 other plays she's written that have nothing to do with Jackie Mason. They do have really old names in them though, like Mae West and King Solomon.
Oh my God, she is the king. Your mother is the queen of fictionalizing people nobody gives a shit about.
She's got to put that on a business card.
That's really funny.
Okay, but or maybe too.
That's probably the best quote I've ever heard.
She also has a Groucho Marx musical. Do you love Charlie Chaplin?
Well, what was Hamilton, though? Hello?
So your mom wrote a musical, arguably, if it's 2022 now, your mom wrote a musical around 2005-ish. Is that fair?
You could say that, yeah.
Okay, fine. She's at least performed it on YouTube. I found clips going back as far as 2012.
Yeah, I mean, it's been all over. It's Chicago, Long Island, Florida.
Somebody decided in the year 2022, a year and a half after your pop passes away, to put it in the New York Comedy Festival. Whose idea was that?
Well, I really have to thank Louis Ferranda for that. It was
Really?
Yeah, he really, he's...
The one comedy booker older than your dad would be.
No, he's just a gem. I mean,
he's a legendary guy. If he returned my calls, I'd be much nicer. But like Louis Ferranda is the booker at Caroline's. The man knows comedy. Arguably, he was a part of minting a lot of people who consider Caroline's part of their success.
I mean, I've only ever known him. I've only had a wonderful relationship.
No, I'm not. No,
yeah.
I'm saying that. The
funny thing is,
here's a man. This is a man who's a tastemaker. He thinks your play is a taste to be made. I don't know whatever. Fix the phrasing there, but yeah.
You know what's funny is when I was 8, I grew up with this girl named Brittany Ferranda, like in this neighborhood that I lived in, and it turns out that that's his niece. But I remember very
Oh my God, would have been better if.
Listen to how, but this is so specific though, is that I remember on December 5th, I'm 8, and I really liked this girl. She was like she was like a little older than me. And like, she was having a birthday party on December 5th, or I could go meet my father for the first time. And as an 8-year-old, I was actually torn between like going to her birthday party or meeting my father because I was a kid.
Yeah, and you had a better chance of hanging out with Brittany Ferranda a second time.
Yeah. So I met my father, but we still maintained friendship for a while. Yeah.
Actually, it would have been better if Brittany Ferranda were the child of Louis Ferranda and always dreamed of being a comedy club booker. That would have been the ultimate symmetry. But so Louis Ferranda pulls this out of mothballs. You dust it off, and your mom is a part of recasting it.
We haven't done it since the last time we did it was in Boca Raton.
It was just pre-pandemic. The only reason
pre-pandemic.
It hasn't been done for the last
It's because of the pandemic.
But you kind of made the joke, and I don't think it's a joke. Could this go further now that the subject of the musical is passed away and not there to object?
Well, he actually let the show go on all those years.
He never sued you?
He never sued us, didn't matter. In fact,
Did he ever comment on it?
In a very early incarnation, before I was even born, when she had just written down her musings and a couple of songs about it.
Okay.
There's a really cute speech that's even on the website where he goes, "I can't believe this cute yenta would write a play about me. Who am I?" And he was very, very sweet about it in the very beginning. While they were still,
Tell me
amorous
about the New York Post girlfriend that.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can tell him.
Well, I don't really know it entirely, but I think it was 2000. It was just before I came on board, so 2011. I think they were doing the show, and there was a whole article. I had read it it was before I had anything to do with the show, but I was reading the New York Post. Yeah, and it says Jackie Mason's love affair. He was dating this girl that was maybe like 40 years younger than he was.
I want to be him in so many ways.
Yeah.
and apparently he was cheating on her even.
Really?
And that's what she claims. And so there was a big fight at his apartment, and so this is what the New York Post, page 6 or something like that, was reporting on. Jackie Mason's girlfriend storms out in a huff and comes to the New York Post and tells him that he's a philanderer, 40 years or 30 years after having her. So the next day or the next week, this woman who somehow found out about Sheba, somehow found out about the play going on, came to the play. Right?
Yeah, she came to the play. Okay. And then we ended up in the Wall Street Journal.
Well, because it's funny. My father always has the joke when one of his dude friends would pass away, and the ex-wives and the girlfriends and the mistresses would all be at the funeral, and my father would say we should get the group picture. You actually got the group picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the musical, and it sounds weird after I did this sort of heavier interview, is funny.
Yeah, the musical is really funny. Like I said, there's this song, the Ode to the Early Bird Special, which depicts all the coffee shops they went to and how fun that was.
Okay.
There's a scene in it called Celebrity Seekers where Jackie is sitting on a date with Ginger and all these people come over to him, and then you learn about, some of the darker side of being a celebrity a little bit, how annoying it can actually be when you're that big.
Yeah.
We should only hope, but I never met this Yenta. Then there's a seance scene with Ginger and her mother where she's trying to get him back.
So yeah, and you say seance, but he was alive. You were just trying to put voodoo almost, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's not really a seance. It's more like just doing like pretend spells. Like, may this man, Jackie Mason, have no peace and no rest until he returns to my daughter, who is the best. Like that. It's just stupid.
Okay, yeah. Now I feel like I'm ignoring Ian, but I think Ian's doing a great job guiding the story here. Ian, where are you from?
From Jersey, born and raised, New Jersey, half Jewish, half Catholic. My father left me when I was a child, too. He was the Jewish side, and my mother, in her Catholic family, raised me, but decided to send me to Hebrew school and to raise me as a Jew. And so I would my family would be celebrating Christmas downstairs, and I would be sent upstairs to go do my hatikvans and whatnot.
Oh, my God, there should be a musical about you.
And so that's what, folks have asked me before, where did you pick up the routine and did you know Jackie Mason, yada, yada. And I said, well, listen, his characterization was everywhere around me. And so the people that were around me and the people that were raising me, I thought they were so fascinating and so stimulating. And so I picked up a lot of their isms and a lot of their idiosyncrasies. And it just ended up playing right into who the hell Jackie Mason is later. So I'm thrilled and thankful that my mother was so irreverent in her decisions in my rearing.
Okay, your mom's still around?
Yes.
Okay. Question 2. Did you know who Jackie Mason was when you were a kid growing up?
I think I was aware.
Okay.
I don't know that I cared, but I was aware.
Okay.
Caddyshack was on at midnight sometimes on PIX or something like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Now, did you ever meet Jackie Mason?
Okay. So I'm in the show for about 6 months or something.
Where was the show playing at this point?
On 8th Avenue.
Okay, somewhere in New York. Okay.
And the whole Jackie thing is buzzing in my head, and so it's in my vortex, right? In my timelines are all crossing in the world, right? And so I'm just walking down 8th Avenue, hit the Westway Diner at 9th Avenue rather, and 42nd Street, and I look to my left and I say, holy fuck, there's Jackie Mason. Here I am, and there's Jackie Mason, and I see him with Jill, right, the manager, and she's got the glasses on. It's 10 p.m. at night, but she's got the glasses on, and they're in the Westway Diner, and I'm saying to myself, I gotta say something, right? I'd be a total loser if I didn't say something. Say something. I don't know what. So I go into the Westway Diner. He gets up from the table that he's at with Jill, and I'm like, this is perfect. This is fucking perfect. So he's going to the bathroom or something like that, and I corner him in the bathroom as he's going back there, and I say, Mr. He was flirting with the woman working the counter a little bit, and so he stopped for a second, and I say, Mr. Mason, and he turns to me. He's probably about 87 or something at this time. And he turns to me, he looks at me, and I said, Mr. Mason, I'm a big fan, and he looks at me, and he's flattered, he's thrilled,
Okay.
he likes a fan, and he's like, well, thank you very much. He's shaking my hand, and while he's shaking my hand, I say to him, and I'm working with your daughter Sheba in a show, and then he stops. He holds, and then he kind of points at me, lets go of him, or no, he holds my hand still, and he's pointing at me and squeezes a little bit harder, and he said, you shouldn't get yourself involved in other people's business. It's a place don't matter. I don't. Who do you think you are? And I'm kind of flustered. Oh, what the fuck did I just get myself into, right? And so then I'm just kind of, I'm sorry, I understand. Okay, thank you. And then I just kind of walked away, and he went to the bathroom.
Now, on to a more fun thing. Because I feel like Jackie Mason represents the Jewish grandpa. Okay, or the pitter patter, or the pitter patter of old man from New York. I will argue.
He's so unseemly, with all the women.
Okay, yeah, maybe Jewish grandpa's the wrong word, but do you remember in Coming to America, the barbershop guy, the barbershop Jewish? Yeah. I feel like that was a Jackie Mason impersonation.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the secret to doing old Jewish New Yorker? Because you got this. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so this is it. I've broken it down into, and this is not old Jewish New Yorker, this is Jackie Mason. I've broken his shtick down to 3 characterizations. The first one is rhythm. It's all about rhythm. It doesn't matter what you're saying. It can be in any language. The same way that Latka from Taxi.
Okay,
it's a thing. Latka has a rhythm. Jackie has a rhythm, right? So that's number 1 is rhythm. Number 2 is the comedy sensibility is logical absurdism. He will take whatever the topic is to its logically absurdist place and then give you the exact opposite of it. What's an example of this? He's talking about somehow people, they eat too much, and he's and then they eat this, and then they eat that, and then and no matter what, they're always and whatever it is at the end of it, he'll throw the opposite of whatever he's made such a big deal about. He'll pop the balloon, so he'll inflate this balloon and then he'll pop the balloon, and then and so you got to build the rhythm up to that and then explode it at the end. All of his jokes land like that. And the third thing is. You put oi into as many words as you possibly can. An exploit, anything with an ERT on it turns into oi. So it's just funnier when you say things like that. What are some words? Expert. What a flight.
The Showboy Theater.
The Showboy Theater. Whatever it is. There's this oi. There's this boing. This bounciness to it all. So you throw those three pieces together, and that's Jackie Mason.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So now, Sheba, I have no doubt when we go to Caroline's and we get our tickets at JackieMasonTheMusical.com and we go to see this play, especially if it gets extended, I have no doubt wherever you see Sheba perform, people walk away loving Sheba, whether it be stand-up
really sweet,
or something like that.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to see the musical. We're going to walk away loving Sheba more. Will we walk away loving your father more or less?
That's a good question. You have to see it to find out. But I will tell you that in no way is he like crucified.
It's not
Really?
not a hit
Yeah.
piece.
It's not a hit piece.
It's not a
Yeah.
hit piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not out to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Have you invited his wife manager to the show?
No.
Okay, she's still
always
alive,
welcome.
though.
She's always
I
welcome.
don't know about that.
Okay, there you go. I think that's two big answers. Is there anything I'm missing?
You're probably wondering if I'm in the will.
I am, and I decided not to ask.
You know why? Because you're an Irish Catholic person. You're
Oh,
not a Jewish person.
are you kidding me?
All
no.
the Jews ask me, like right away, the first thing when I get there, are you in
No,
the
well,
will?
did you get anything out of him?
Well, you'll have, that's in the play too.
Is that in the play?
A little bit.
But you've amended the play.
Do you see my jacket? Do I look like I got anything in the will?
Well, you
we
may
have amended the ending.
No, but talking about my father's father, all I got was this wooden sign that hung in a house upstate. Now I treasure it. I'm glad it's here. I keep it in my, in my apartment. Did you get anything out of the guy? Like even if it's a sentimental thing?
I don't think he has anything sentimental. You think he has? I don't think he has sentimental things. But
Okay.
The
I want
answer
to
is
just.
No.
I really want to thank
This
Louis
life, she has
Ferranda
this
again.
life.
Actually, I'm going to ask you one more question. You're going to one real question here, because I joke about it. I mean, I obviously will never date a woman 40 years younger than me, like you were just talking about your dad. But what you were talking about your dad before and how he loved the fans.
Yes.
You are a very funny comedian. I really don't hold down the same boyfriend for that long a time. I am a single heterosexual comedian. I don't hold anybody down for that long a time. Do people like you and I love performing and love the fans more than a family life?
Well, that's a good question. I used to think that I did love that, and I loved just being not tied down. But now that I'm a little older and I've learned what you can have both. You can go do your show and then come home to a really nice husband, or in your case, a woman. Yeah. I mean, I much prefer to just do the show, say hello, and come home by 10:30. Really.
But there was a long time when even when you were dating someone, you would not incorporate romance into your act because your act was kind of showcased as the single girl.
Right, but I didn't do that so that guys would hit on me. I did that because I already knew that image, so I just couldn't write enough new material fast enough.
Yeah.
That was kind of like my image. I'm a single girl, But now, if I really want to get married and have a kid pretty soon.
Okay. And does having
And
this
you could do
musical...
both. You could just perform, and also I see a lot of people. Rachel Feinstein has a great husband
You
and
hear
a
that,
child.
Jackie? You hear that up there? You hear that? You could have both. You could have had both.
You could do both.
Have you grown having this out there? Is there a weight off your chest? Is there anything better in your life now that you have this playing at Caroline's?
Yes, there really is.
A little bit of a sense of peace or something? Or?
Yeah, there's a sense of peace. It's really nice to have it out there. It's nice to be in a play. I mean, I love doing stand-up, but I also love a break from stand-up where I can just be in the play and sing and dance.
And you know what there was? While he was alive, there was a specter. There was a specter of when we were doing this play, you almost felt like we can't advertise it and we can't talk about it and we can't publicize it and we can't, because then they'd make a big deal about it and then they'd push us down. At least I felt that way. Now it feels like that's alleviated a little bit and it almost feels like, I'm sorry to say this, I don't know if you're there, if you're listening, but it feels like maybe he's pushing it a little.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue the one thing you might have gotten in the will is his share of your story.
Yeah.
Well, and look, we have a really adorable guy playing him. Right?
Adorable. You single, by the way?
Sing?
Are you? You good girlfriend? Anybody in your life special?
Life is an oyster,
Okay. Sheba, you're single. Why not? Would you F the guy who plays your dad?
We have before, if you want to know the truth.
Really? Oh, my God. Not the answer I thought we were going to get. Oh, my God.
Your podcast is pure.
It is a pure, it's pure, but we dance around. You.
You're not
No, but why are we doing this an hour into the show? You had sex with the man who plays your dad in your musical?
And not just this one.
No, just this one.
All right, whatever.
Wait, you've had sex with the other Jackie Masons?
No, just this one.
Okay.
Just this one.
How many times have you had sex?
In my life?
With him?
We dated for 7 years.
I did not know that. Okay, geez, where the hell was that at the beginning of the interview?
Remember when I was walking around the Three Monkeys crying? And I told you that you're a bad Brit? It was him.
Okay, I thought it was the much better looking Latino guy.
No, I didn't date him.
Because I'll be honest with you.
He was just my friend.
I would have cried over the Latino guy.
God.
He's a very pretty guy. He's a very pretty guy. He's a very pretty guy. Are
that?
you kidding? You've seen it. I'm with Roberto, right? Roberto's beautiful.
I just made that part up. I just flushed out a name. I was just going,
He's
okay.
not Latino. He's Korean.
So wait, you guys dated for 7 years?
You're talking about Roberto?
I have no idea who the hell I'm talking about. I don't think I'm actually talking about anybody, but this is how I would have been a great detective with this one.
Roberto's like my brother.
Okay, so I'd never.
yeah, 'cause
but wait, hang on.
Roberto's
Let me get the joke here. I'd never fuck my brother, but I would fuck the guy who played my father.
What can you do? I told you, it's a Greek tragedy. The damn thing's Oedipus.
It is Oedipus. Nico, do you want to learn more about this, or is this the cliffhanger? Hang on, I'm talking to our producer, Nico. Nico, do you want to learn more about their sex life? No. Yeah, Nico's saying no. I think
Can we talk
enough.
about someone my age, please? These people are disgusting.
Yeah, this is a porn category of some sort.
Look how he knew that. That's his comment.
Yeah, that's what Nico just said. This is some form of porn category.
There's a few porn categories too. All right?
Well, get ready to click the Not for Children button on YouTube.
Yeah. It was hit before we even. It was hit going into this. I guess it's kind of awkward to thank Caroline's after we talked about your effing the guy who played your dad.
Well, Lewis understands matters of the heart. Yeah.
It is a matter of the heart. And I hope I didn't make that awkward there, but that's hilarious.
For sure.
I would love for you two to date because the two of you are very fun together. Though now I don't want you to date because, okay, did you ever do the Jackie? Okay, can I ask one really dirty question?
I don't think I did I?
Do you ever do the Jackie Mason? You ever go, oh? No. Well, okay, yeah. Because that's
wanted
too
to
much.
keep it pure.
I did want him to try to be a cowboy a few times, though.
She has some cowboy fantasies.
Okay.
She likes the West.
So, if you don't mind, I'm going to thank Caroline so I could close out the show straight to camera.
Thank you, Caroline. Really appreciate having us there. It's like so much fun breathing new life into everybody. Thank you.
Okay, and Nico, zoom in on me because I really want to. I'd like to end this here. I really wanted to tell this story for a long time, and I had no idea it would end like this. So, anybody still on board? I don't know if you got the surprise twist ending or if I owe you an apology. I'll let you guys decide. And listen, I need your help, America. So does Sheba, okay? Sheba, you heard the sob story. Go tell your friends about Jackie Mason, the musical. Go buy a ticket. Okay? If you don't show up, that's okay. Just buy a damn ticket for her show, okay? And make sure you tell Sheba Mason that you heard about her on the Tom Kelly Show, because if there's anything that the Jews and the Italians have in common is a favor's not a favor unless the person knows you did them a favor, okay? And for me, the favor you can do to me is show love where love can be shown. Comment below, share the podcast, share episodes of this, and tell a friend. It sounds crazy, but sharing your Instagram stories that you're listening on Spotify and Apple and whatever, or if you're watching on YouTube, however you do it, send the link directly to a friend and post it in your stories, okay? And you can tag me at Tom Kelly Show. I like to repost things. And that's it, folks. We got a huge show coming up this week with Ariel Elias, who had a beer can thrown at her at a comedy club, and she chugged the beer can. She has an amazing story. You know her, right? You heard that story, right?
Yeah, of course.
Amazing story. And that's it, folks. So until next time, good night, Miami.